Hello, my name's Catherine Hawes, and I'm the author of I Did Not Choose This Adventure. And I thought we could talk today about the first half of the year and what we've read. So usually on this channel, we are writing together with short exercises for busy people, but there's something called the, I'm probably gonna mess this up, mid-year freak-out tag that my booktuber bestie Kay told me about. I was like, I didn't know that this existed. She's like, you should do one. So here we are. So how this works, to my understanding, is there are questions and then we go through and apply these questions to what we've read so far this year. So let's dive right in, shall we? Question number 1. Best book you've read so far this year. Hero on a Mission by Donald Miller. You may notice I do not have it in my hand because after I read it, I sent it to my friend Courtney because she wanted to read it and I wanted her to read it. So it is kind of like a self-help book, but with the understanding of story structure and thinking about how that applies to your personal life. So totally cool, totally worth it. And he goes a bit into his own story of how he began in like a victim mindset and kind of turned into a villain sometimes, and how instead we need to be a hero and then a guide. I highly recommend Hero on a Mission by Donald Miller. Next question. Best sequel you've read so far would be Drawn Through Blood by John Otte. And when you think romance, you think John Otte. So this is the second book after Drawn in Ash. This is a fantasy sci-fi retelling of Esther, and I really like it. The main character, I love her so much. And as I was reading, and I say her name wrong, looks like Everys. I don't know if it's supposed to be Everys. In my head, it was Everys, but she is awesome. When I watch a dumb rom-com or something, I'm always like, girl, why didn't you run? Or like, girl, why are you like letting this happen to you? Not with Everys. She is fantastic, and you just gotta read about her. That's all I'm gonna say. Question 3. New release you haven't read yet but want to. I don't know how to answer that, so I'm gonna answer my own question, which is, what is my favorite nonfiction that I read so far this year? And my answer is The Psychology of Money. I am very interested in how people think, why people think the way that they do, and I'm also interested in money. Aren't we all? This book was fascinating, and in the beginning he says that how someone deals with money makes sense to them. And if you're on the outside looking at someone and they're making decisions that seem wildly strange to you, in that person's mind, it does make sense. And then he also talks about how you can kind of think about your own story and history and behaviors and why your money life is the way that it is. Super fascinating. All right, question number 4. Most anticipated release for the second half of this year. My answer is The Nightmare Virus by Nadine Brandis. I met Nadine at a conference and she had a little mentor session with me. She's super nice, super cool, and an amazing author. So this is what you can look forward to with The Nightmare Virus coming out. When dream technology goes wrong, a virus spreads across the globe, trapping people in a universal dreamscape they call the Nightmare Virus. Kane Cross is determined to find a cure if he can decipher his brother's chicken scratch formula notes. But when he gets infected, he only has 22 days until he's trapped in the mental prison forever. Isn't that cool? Also, this cover, it's gorgeous. And like, I had to stare at it for quite a while to realize that there's like a silhouette of a person and like you see inside their head. This was so cool. All right, question number 5. Your biggest disappointment. My biggest reading disappointment this year is that I was unable to listen to the Silmarillion read by Andy Serkis before going on my Inklings Abroad trip. And I've been listening to like The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings trilogy read by Andy Serkis, and it's been amazing, but they didn't have the Silmarillion on Hoopla or on Libby until just recently. And there's already like 130 people in line for the Silmarillion on Libby. So when I'm 80 years old, I will finally be able to listen to it on there. I've always been intimidated by the Silmarillion, and I was like, this is my year. This is the time. If Andy Serkis reads it to me, then I can do it. So I just need to do it. Number 6, biggest surprise. So my biggest surprise was while reading The Metropolitan Affair by Jocelyn Green. I got to meet her last year at a conference, and that was super fun. Our main character is an expert in Egyptology, and her buddy is a cop, and they're trying to find out like who's at the bottom of some of these forgeries going around. And at like a swanky gala, she's dancing with the cop, and they're getting all like romancy. And while I was reading that part, I like out loud said, "Can we just cut to the romance and get back to the Egyptology?" And then I laughed at what a nerd I am. Number 7, favorite new author, debut or new to you. So new to me was Brandon Sanderson, who I read Tress of the Emerald Sea by him. And I've never heard of him before. Brandon also has some YouTube videos where he talks about writing and has classes and stuff, and he's awesome! So thank you to LionCat9022 for cluing me in that Brandon Sanderson has online lectures on YouTube. Super cool! Question number 8. Who is your newest fictional crush? So, my friend Megan Miles just released this book, and I finished it last night. I stayed up late and like had my light on. I was like, I am finishing this book. So this is a Cinderella retelling where it's in like 1910s Boston, and the story begins the day after the ball. And there's a love triangle. So usually I'm not a big love triangle person, but Megan, you had me going on this whole ride and I loved it. One of the characters in here, his name is August, and he's an author and he's a cinnamon roll sweetheart and is really nice to Cinderella after like she got bruises and he's like concerned about her. Oh, precious. If you want to support my buddy Megan, you can find the link down in the description for Before Ever After. Question number 9, newest favorite character. Here comes Tress of the Emerald Sea again. And my favorite character is Huck. He's the little rat that's her friend on the pirate ship and everything. And he's super sweet and I love him. So Tress of the Emerald Sea was recommended by my buddy Kay. And she said like, hey, since you love the Princess Bride so much, you're gonna love this book. And it's not really anything like Princess Bride except in like the humor kind of stuff. And it's so much fun. It was a good time. Number 10, a book that made you cry. And that would be the audiobook of The Return of the King, read by Andy Serkis. I have read these before, but just Sam and then Frodo and the end and everything. And so yes, tears, many tears. Number 11, a book that made you happy. The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. I read this in college and then again, I think a couple years ago. I think maybe this is reread number 3 of this book. And this book is like a jolt of lightning to get you to do the things that you've been putting off or to just realize that you are a writer and you're afraid to admit that to yourself and then actually kick resistance and do the darn thing. This is my favorite part, which is the last page, and you can pause and look at that and see why it's so good. Question number 12, the most beautiful book you have bought so far this year. And that would be this drop-dead gorgeous copy of Peter Pan. So this was designed, I believe, by the same group that was doing the production design for the Harry Potter movies. So you know this is gonna be good. There's interactive pages. There's like some things throughout. This it like turns. And shoot, where's my favorite? Oh, here it is, here it is. It's like the crocodile in the clock. It's just so beautiful. Oh gosh. Okay, here we go. Question 13, what book do you need to read by the end of the year? So evidently I need to read Flight by R.V. Wilbur. my Bookstagram and booktuber bestie Kay's library has been like raving about this book, and she's like, somebody, like, you have to read it so we can like talk about it together. And she keeps talking about it, and it sounds super neat. So yes, I am committing that I will finish this by the end of the year. Look at me go! You're welcome. And number 14, a bonus question that I thought would be fun. What was your favorite reread this year? I ran to the library to grab an audiobook on CD so that I could listen on my trip, and I got The Great Gatsby read by Sean Astin. And I read The Great Gatsby in high school, and I hated it. And I thought, you know, I'd probably appreciate this more when I'm like older. So I have been wanting to read it, and this was a great opportunity. And I loved it. I am so glad that I decided to give it another try. And while I was listening to it, and while the voice of Samwise Gamgee was reading to me as I drove, I was envisioning the movie with Leonardo DiCaprio and able to like totally see the whole thing as a movie in my mind, and it was super cool and gorgeous. So thank you for joining me on this mid-year freak out tag. Why is it even called that? I don't understand. I will put links to everything we talked about below, but as always, check out your library. Hoopla and Libby are amazing things for audiobooks. I think they also do ebooks too, but I don't really do that very much. I'm curious to know, what would you answer to these questions? Let me know in the comments. I'll put like the questions in the description so you can copy paste if you want. If you are a busy writer who would like a writing buddy, please subscribe so that we can write together in quick, they're usually like around 5 to 10 minute exercises that we can do together. Have a lovely day, and ciao for now.